The first thing I noticed when I landed in Portland was that the air smelled like rain even though it wasn't raining. I remember that detail because I clung to it for the next 40 minutes in the rental car, while I drove toward the apartment building on Northeast Couch Street where I was about to surprise the woman I had spent 18 months falling in love with. I had a small velvet box in my carry-on. I had practiced what I was going to say in the mirror of a Marriott bathroom in Denver during my layover. I had a playlist queued up in the car, songs she had sent me at 2 a.m. over the past year, songs that supposedly meant something to her because of her dad, because of her sister, because of the summer she spent in Galway when she was 22. None of that was real. I just didn't know it yet. Her name, she told me, was Elise Margolis. She was 31. She worked remotely as a medical illustrator, which is why she could never video chat for long, eye strain, migraines, a condition called photophobia that she had a whole vocabulary around. She had grown up in Beaverton, lost her father to pancreatic cancer when she was 19, and had one younger sister named Cora who was studying veterinary medicine at Oregon State. She drank her coffee black. She hated cilantro. She had a scar on her left knee from falling off a horse at a summer camp in Sisters, Oregon, in 2003. I knew her. Or I thought I did. I knew her in the way you know someone after 18 months of daily texting, hour-long phone calls 3 or 4 nights a week, voice memos that arrived while I was making dinner, photographs of her morning sky, her coffee cup, her bare feet on the hardwood, the back of her head as she watched a movie I had recommended. I knew the rhythm of her typing. I knew that she used 3 periods instead of an ellipsis. I knew that when she was upset, she sent shorter messages and waited longer between them. We met on a writing forum in February of last year. I had posted a short essay about my mother's death. She had passed in November, and I was, to put it gently, not okay. Elise commented. Her comment wasn't performative. It wasn't one of those long paragraphs of stranger grief that you get on the internet. It was 3 sentences. She said her father had died of something similar, and that the worst part for her had been the way people stopped saying his name. She said she still said his name out loud sometimes, in the car, just so it stayed real. I cried reading it. I messaged her to thank her. She messaged back. Within a week we were talking every day. Within a month I was looking forward to her messages more than anything else in my life. Within 3 months I was telling her things I had never told anyone, about my brother's addiction, about the affair I had almost had 2 years earlier and felt sick about the fact that I sometimes drove past my mother's old house and just sat in the car. She told me things too. Or, the person operating the account told me things. About her father. About her ex-fiancé, a man named Daniel who had cheated on her with a coworker in 2019. About the apartment she lived in alone with a cat named Pilot. About the panic attacks she got in grocery stores. About wanting kids but being scared. I sent her money once. Just once, which I want to be clear about because I have replayed this in my head 1,000 times trying to figure out how stupid I was. It was last August. Her mother, who I now know does not exist, because Elise Margolis as I understood her does not exist, had been hospitalized with what she said was a heart event. Elise was the one paying for things because her sister was a grad student. She didn't ask. I offered. I sent $1,800 through Zelle. She tried to refuse it. She sent it back. I sent it again. That whole exchange, the back and forth, was so convincing that to this day I cannot believe a person sat at a keyboard and engineered it. We were going to meet in October. Then November. Then January. There was always a reason. Her migraines. A work deadline. Her sister needing her. Her landlord doing construction. Each delay was small enough to make sense and intimate enough to feel like she was confiding in me about her life, rather than putting me off. I never pushed. I am not a man who pushes. But in February, exactly 1 year after we first spoke, I decided I was going to surprise her. I told one friend, a guy named Marcus who I have known since college, and Marcus said, very gently, very carefully, what if she's not who she says she is? I remember being annoyed with him. I remember saying, Marcus, I've heard her voice. I've seen her face. I've seen her apartment in the background of photos. I've seen her cat. He didn't push either. He just said, I hope I'm wrong. The building on Northeast Couch Street was real. That's the thing that gets me even now. She had described the lobby, the brass mailboxes, the green tile, the bicycle hooks on the wall. It was all there, exactly as she said. I stood in that lobby holding flowers I'd bought at a New Seasons market and I pressed the buzzer for apartment 4B. A man answered. Older voice. Tired. He said, who is this? I said, I'm looking for Elise. He said, there's no Elise here. I said, Elise Margolis, apartment 4B. He said, son, I've lived in 4B for 11 years. There's no Elise in this building. I have lived here longer than most of the tenants, and I know all of them. I stood in that lobby for a long time. I remember a woman came in with a stroller and I stepped aside to hold the door for her, like a polite ghost. The flowers were still in my hand. I went back to the rental car. I sat there. I called the number I had been calling for 18 months. It rang. It went to her voicemail, which had her voice on it, her real voice, the voice I had fallen in love with. I called again. It rang. I called a third time and someone picked up and didn't say anything. I said, who is this? There was a long pause. A breath. And then the line went dead. I want to tell you that I screamed in the car or punched the steering wheel, but I didn't. I just sat there. I was very, very still. I felt something in my chest go cold and stay cold. I drove back to my hotel and I started doing what I should have done months earlier. I reverse image searched every photograph she had ever sent me. Every single one. The woman in the photographs was real. Her name was not Elise. Her name was a woman named Hannah, a yoga instructor in Vancouver, British Columbia, whose Instagram had 6,400 followers and whose photos had been scraped wholesale for over a year. I sat in that hotel room and scrolled through her profile and saw the original of every single picture I had been sent, the bare feet on the hardwood, the coffee cup, the back of her head during the movie. All of them were Hannah's. None of them were sent by Hannah. It took me 4 more days to figure out who had actually been talking to me. I won't pretend I'm a hacker. I'm not. What I had was 18 months of messages, voice memos, and one PayPal handle from a transaction we'd done early on for a book she had sent me. That handle, cross-referenced with an old forum username she had used in 2017 and forgotten about, led me to a real name. A real person. A man, as it turned out. 46 years old. Lived in Spokane. Had done this before. There were 2 other women on a catfish tracking forum who recognized the photographs of Hannah from their own ruined relationships. The voice. I keep coming back to the voice. Because the voice on the phone, the voice I loved, was a real human voice. He had used a voice changer, a fairly cheap one I now know how to identify by the slight metallic hum under the vowels. He had spoken to me, for hours, hundreds of hours, as this woman. He had cried as her. He had laughed as her. He had told me he loved me as her, and there had been a person on the other end of that line whose actual lungs filled with actual air to say those words to me. This is the part where in a different kind of story I would tell you that I drove to Spokane and confronted him. I didn't. I thought about it. I thought about it for a long week in that Portland hotel, paying for nights I had originally booked thinking I would be staying with her. What I did instead was quieter, and I think, in the end, worse for him. I compiled everything. Every message. Every voice memo. Every transaction. The screenshots of the original Hannah photos next to the ones he had sent me. The 2 other women's testimonies, which they gave me willingly. I sent the whole package, organized, indexed, with a cover letter, to 3 places. His employer, which was a small insurance brokerage where he worked in claims. The Spokane Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit, because of the Zelle money. And, after a lot of thought, his sister, whose contact information I had found through public records and who, according to one of the other women, had no idea what he had been doing for years. I never spoke to him. I never sent him a message. I never gave him the gift of my voice, the way he had given me his. He found out what I had done because the consequences arrived at his door without my name attached to them. He lost his job in March. He was charged in May, not with much, just wire fraud related to the $1,800, but it was enough to put his name in a small local paper. His sister, I am told, has not spoken to him since. I flew home from Portland on a Tuesday. I threw the flowers in an airport trash can. I kept the ring. I don't know why. It is in a drawer in my kitchen, and sometimes when I'm looking for batteries I see the box and I close the drawer again. What I lost wasn't her. She was never there. What I lost was 18 months of telling the truth to someone who was using it. Every grief I confided. Every fear. Every shameful thing about my brother, my mother, the woman I almost cheated with. He has all of it. He still has all of it. Somewhere on a hard drive in Spokane or wherever he is now, a stranger knows me better than anyone alive. I date now, a little. Carefully. There's a woman named Rachel I've had coffee with twice. She is real. I have met her dog. I have met her mother. I asked, on the second date, if I could see her driver's license, and I tried to make it a joke, and she laughed, and she showed me, and she didn't ask why. She didn't ask why. That was the kindest thing anyone has done for me in 2 years.